Good afternoon. I am Tiffany Willoughby, Associate Director for Research Advancement and Education in the Office of Research and Innovation. Thank you for joining us for today's AI in Scientific Writing webinar. During this session, Dr. Sriraam Natarajan will explore practical, ethical, and innovative ways to integrate AI into research writing, and librarians from the Eugene McDermott Library will share key tools, resources, and expert services designed to help students, postdocs, and faculty leverage AI effectively and responsibly. We'll close today's session with audience questions and answers, giving you the chance to get tailored answers from these experts. Allow me to introduce Dr. Sriraam Natarajan. Dr. Sriraam Natarajan is a professor and director of the Center for Machine Learning in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Texas at Dallas. He is an associate for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence, AAAI Fellow, Wadhwani School of AI Distinguished Visiting Chair at India Institute of Technology, Madras. His research spans machine learning, statistical relational artificial intelligence, reinforcement learning, graphical models, and biomedical applications. He has received multiple honors, including the U.S. Army Research Office Young Investigator Award, the President's Award for Excellence in Graduate Teaching, multiple Best Paper Awards, and several industry recognitions. He served as Program Co-Chair of AAAI 2024, SDM 2020, and ACM CODS COMAD 2020. He is an associate editor of the Machine Learning Journal, JAIR, and DAMI, an elected member of the AAAI Executive Council and Secretary-Treasurer-elect of IJCAI. Dr. Natarajan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind invitation and the generous introduction. Could we move to the next slide, please? So yeah, thank you. I'm Sriraam. I'm here to talk about AI for scientific writing, and I'm going to basically provide some case scenarios in which AI is both used and abused, and we will hopefully at the end of the talk we'll have some ideas on how to best use AI for scientific writing. Next slide, please. So again, everybody knows AI, right? I don't have to introduce AI anymore. Everybody knows AI. My 74-year-old uncle knows AI. His 90-year-old father-in-law knows AI. So everybody knows AI. So we don't have to talk about AI. But truly, AI is transforming in how we write, review, and publish scientific papers. And so the question is, what is the safe and responsible use of AI? How can we ensure that our use of AI is trustworthy, it's ethical, and of course, responsible in terms of scientific integrity that we can maintain when we use AI for scientific papers? So that's what I'm going to discuss in the next 15 to 20 minutes. Next slide, please. So what can AI do for scientific writing, right? So first is that it can clearly fix grammar, clarity, and even make it consistent with active and passive voice and so on in writing. So that's clearly the first use case of AI, is to just revise what we have written to make it much more professional. But there is a useful side effect of using AI, right? Because now what it has done is it's kind of leveled the playing field for non-native speakers as well. So it used to be that about maybe even 20 years back or 15 years back, I used to get a lot of emails from people outside the US saying, hey, can you join our paper? And their only reason for asking me to join their paper was to fix the glamour and edit things for them in the paper. Of course, many of us will directly say, no, we are happy to do it for free. Put my name in, acknowledgements. That's enough. And we have done that service for the community. But now AI is doing that much better and in a cleaner manner. The second thing that it's very good at is doing literature review and synthesis. When I say review here, I really mean search, right? So it's very useful for searching papers and identifying gaps, particularly in the field of AI, because I've been in this field for now 25 years. I can say this confidently. In the field of AI, when I read the recent papers or recent dissertations of graduating PhD students, you see that all the references are from the last 5 years at most, right? But AI as a field has been present as long as computer science as a field has been present, and that's about 80 years. And the first conference in AI was in 1954. The first set of papers in AI came from 1954. So AI as a field has been existing for so long. And if you ask the AI tools uh, about a particular scientific topic, you actually do get this entire history. So I encourage all the students, all scientific writers, to actually use these AI tools to figure out what is the work that has been done in the past on the problems that we are thinking about, right? And then, of course, they're also helpful when prodded correctly in identifying the gaps. But be very careful, and I'm going to talk about that later. Summary, when we write the summary, we have to be a little bit careful. I'll talk about that a little bit later because I'm focusing more on what it can do at this point. The third one, I think is very, very impressive right now is code generation. So here is a classic example. When I started as a faculty 16 years back, we started developing a set of a big code base in Java. And between 2010, I want to say, between 2010 and 2017, we built this code base that's been used by many researchers across the world. And now, in March, I had a flu. And so I quarantined myself for 4 days. And of course, in 2 days, I felt better. In a day, I felt better. So I had a lot of time. I tried to convert that code from Java to Python using the AI tools. Oh man, it was brilliant. It converted almost everything. There are some corner cases that we have to test, we have to debug and so on, but it worked. What took us 7 years, it was able to synthesize in 4 days of continuous interaction. So the point I'm trying to make is that it can write beautiful code. We can write scripts for experiments, statistical analysis, and the visualization tools that have come out, and the graphs that it produces are beautiful. So we should be using AI for such tools as well. And peer review, it can be used as an assistant in the sense that you can see if the review part is done correctly, if the references are done correctly, or if the flow of the paper is done correctly. So for these things, it's a very good tool. Can we go to the next page, please? And what does it give? As I explained, what it took us 7 years, 4 days of prompting. Of course, there is a lot that we have to do. So maybe it takes a month, but in 1 month, I can convert a 7-year code into something that is production level. So it's faster drafts, quicker iterations. So we can think more about the problem and less about both the syntax and the formatting. This can be outsourced to AI as well. And as even we can write class notes from slides and create slides from notes. And of course, we have to go through everything and fix it, but it can be done. As I said, it levels the playing field for not native English speakers. And that's a big, big plus, because then we can actually tap into the intellectual potential of non-native English speakers as well. And one thing that I personally have really benefited from is I don't have a writer's block anymore, because I say, okay, I want to do this. What could be an initial thought process? And then it gives me the initial flow, and then I can say, okay, now I know how to start writing this, because this is very much in sync with what I was thinking. So it kind of gives you a jump start, maybe a steeper performance curve, but hopefully the same asymptote as we got all the time, right? So that's how it's been working. And what I have seen is also, because we handle now, I'm in the field of AI, we get 23,000 papers a year. The reviewing process has scaled. We have been using AI to augment human reviews to scale the review process to 23,000 papers. So there is a lot of benefit that AI can bring to the researchers. Next slide, please. But the point is that every coin has two sides, right? So once you start using AI, and if you use it without any boundaries, then we are raising a lot of risks and ethical concerns. Of course, the first one is always we talk about hallucinations, and I have a bunch of examples coming in the next 3 to 4 slides. The thing is that it is very, very confident, right? The way AI writes out, it's very confident because it takes human natural language as input, whatever we have put out there as input, and it essentially generates plausible but false citations, right? And this basically can propagate through the literature, and it can also propagate in your code. And that's what it did for me. When I did the code, one simple error was propagated throughout. So once I caught it, it was very easy to fix it. It actually automatically fixed itself. So what we need to do is we have to be very careful when we are doing this for citations. The second thing is, to what level are you using AI, right? Who is the author? When AI writes significant proportion of your paper, then how do we figure out who is the author, right? And I have a few more examples when we go later. But this also, there needs to be accountability for errors and retractions, and we have to figure out who is responsible for the error in the paper. We cannot just say AI is the one that is causing, right? If you have a self-driving car that causes that causes an accident, but somebody is there in the driver's wheel, they are responsible for this because they should have taken control, right? And the bias amplification, right? The problem is that, remember, AI is only as good as the data that's been provided to this system. So whatever existing literature has, if the existing literature has inherent bias, that bias is going to be amplified in the AI as well. And of course, the biggest worry is, as with any technology, the over-reliance of this can erode critical thinking. So you really have to figure out how to do the scientific writing in a manner where your your capability to think critically doesn't degrade over time. Next slide, please. And I'm going to give you a bunch of examples, right? So AI hallucinations have been around ever since ChatGPT was started to be used, right? So we had 5 fake references with real-looking PubMed IDs. And in Sage journals in 2024, there's a paper nicely by Buchanan and others, where they showed more than 30% of the citations generated by ChatGPT 3.5 are fabricated or erroneous. But this number reduced a little bit. I think it came down to 13 or maybe 12%. But even the models that are currently out there still hallucinate at rates that are much more dangerous. And there are 55% of medical references were fully fabricated by 3.5, right? And it uses real author names and proper formatting. In one of the papers, I tried to just do this literature search, and it actually gave me an authorship of a paper with some of the Nobel laureates. It would be awesome, but it's completely false, right? Because I was interacting with it, and I said, can you go find this from my previous paper and bring this out? And it just attributed a very nice paper by somebody else to me. Okay, it would be nice, but I still don't think I can accept it. Next page, please. And this is not just happening in medical journals, even though we had, I talked about medical journals here. In NeurIPS, which is one of the premier conferences inside computer science and AI, has seen 100+ fake citations just last year, right? And we have seen 51 accepted papers had some hallucinated references or the other. And the key is, because the reviewers are also overloaded, the review process, these papers pass the review process despite these fabricated contents, right? So, and then there are some simple telltale phrases that we can use to figure these things out. But the point is that 20% of the CS papers may include some AI generated content, and this was published last year in the in Science as well. Next slide, please. And of course, this has been going on forever, right? I mean, even there's been collision rings, there's been other problems with reviewing, but now AI is adding more to this malpractice, right? All the way from, federal courts, we have seen 6 fabricated cases, and there were some publishers with nearly 8,000 papers retracted, and we don't even know how much of this is because of AI and how much of this are other reasons why they were retracted. And there were 6,000 plus AI peer reviews that were also submitted, and those are all fake in some sense. And I am one of the moderators of Archive. In this, Archive is this place where we can publish papers while they are under review. They are preprints that are released. And I'm one of the moderators of Archive inside the machine learning session. And because I work in machine learning, I'm responsible for like 500 papers every week, 500, maybe even 1,000, 500 to 1,000, anywhere in that range. And I would say even hundreds of the papers have, I've written it as LLM generated here, but in my other draft, I had changed it to LLM influenced papers. So there were a lot of work where papers where LLM is heavily influencing those particular publication, and I have to vet them out, and I had to push it back to the author and say, hey, you need to either remove these things or add your own material before you send it back. Okay, so we are seeing a lot of this. So far, what I've given you is examples of AI misuse and AI abuse, right? So what are people doing? Next slide, please. So of course, the people have thought about this, and major journals have thought about this problem and have come up with some solutions. The universal rule is that AI cannot be listed as an author. So see, that's where you draw the line, right? When I started as when I started as a PhD student, my advisor gave me a very important message that you think of authorship as one of the most important parts of any scientific collaboration. You give a authorship to somebody only if you believe that without that person, this paper would not have been possible, right? So others go in acknowledgements. So that's the point, right? When you put AI when you use heavily AI, you have to, the right thing to do is list it, but we cannot list it. So that kind of tells you the extent to which we should be using AI, right? And Nature, for instance, has LLM use is documented in the methods, and Science basically says that AI generated text is strictly prohibited, right? So we can edit, but you cannot generate. And there are others also which are having this AI disclosure agreement, and sometimes even they don't like images and figures by AI. So we have to really be aware of which publisher is allowing the use of AI and to what extent. Next slides, please. And of course, because computer science kind of leads the AI development, the problem is in some sense magnified in computer science conferences, because we get 23,000 papers. ICML, which is the International Conference of Machine Learning, basically says fully AI generated papers are prohibited. Editing and polishing is permitted. And this is something that we as a community may have to start thinking, right? We want people to use AI, because people who use AI, if they don't use AI, then they may be behind the others who already use AI. So we want to allow people to use AI, but to what extent? So ICML took this stance that editing or polishing is permitted, but others are not. And ICLR, if basically said, which is the International Conference on Learning Representations, said immediate rejection for undisclosed LLM use, right? So you can't use prompt injection. If you use LLM and you don't disclose it, that's immediate ground for rejection. ACL, which is the Association of Computation Linguistics, has AI writing coding policy with via responsible NLP checklist. And if you do prompt injection, and there have been people who tried to write in white font some prompt to the AI system, because they think that people use AI to review the paper. They wanted the reviews to be positive. So that kind of prompt injection, where those papers were identified, they were rejected, and in many societies, those authors are even banned from submitting for future references. And ACM, the Association of Computing Machinery policy on authorship, says all AI generated in content in papers, code and figures must be disclosed, applies across all the journals, conferences, and magazines. But I hope you get the key here. All of them have the idea that we have to disclose the use of AI. However we are using AI, we have to disclose it. Next slide, please. And this is not just with conferences and journals. This is also with proposals and funding, right? NIH AI heavy grant applications are not considered original. Detection is enforced. In a recent study section, I was explicitly told, if you think that the proposal is heavily written by AI, contact the program manager. So there are guardrails that the funding agencies are putting in, right? The violation going to referral to Office of Research Integrity, termination of award. In some cases, the person will probably never get funded again. So when we write these proposals, we have to be very careful on where and how we are using AI. And NSF goes the other way also in reviewers, because even at reviewing, you are not allowed to upload the proposals to external AI tools. So we are not allowed to upload a proposal and ask for an initial review, right? And the European Research Council kind of moves that needle further and says understanding and assessing proposals is a human responsibility and not that of AI. So we have to be, it's very clear that the reviews are also owned by humans. The proposals are also owned by humans. Next slide, please. So I want to finish off. I was given 20-minute slot and I was supposed to finish around 12:20. So I want to finish off by kind of touching upon the best practices and guidelines. So one thing that we have seen, hopefully common across all journals, conferences, and funding agencies is transparency and disclosure, right? Anytime if you use the AI tool, please disclose how to do this for journal and conference policies. Actually, if there are professors here, I wanted to say that Professor Vibhav Gogate from computer science, he has developed even a nicer policy for course as well, where he allows the AI agents to be used in programming assignments and other assignments, but he wants the students to copy and paste the prompts and the responses to the prompts. So essentially make it transparent so people can understand how AI tools are used. And the key is AI is evolving, the tools are evolving, their capabilities are evolving, so the guidelines are also evolving. So I highly encourage that if you're submitting a paper, do not rely on last year's guideline, because this year the guideline would have changed, because we are changing the goalposts as we go. So they all have evolving guidelines, and we should be looking at them when we are doing this. Humans must be involved always, right? I actually had the thing saying human in the loop, but these are things what we used to call as AI in the loop systems, because in the end, the product is owned by the human, whether it is a scientific paper, whether it is a proposal, or even a piece of code that you're putting out. Every single thing is owned by the human, the person. The first author owns everything. So they have to verify every claim, every citation, and every data point that has been used, let's say in the experiments. AI is an assistant. The researcher is the one who is responsible. So the buck stops with the set of authors, not just the first author, every single author. All the authors should be very careful on anything that's being used in AI, and use AI for the right tasks. They are very good for editing, brainstorming, as I said, coding, formatting, and so on. And they're very risky for novel claims, some mathematical proof, and certainly for literature synthesis, because they are very good at hallucinating. So we have to be very careful on how we are using this. And not only UTD, but every community should develop institutional policies. And one of the responsibility as AI researchers and researchers who use AI is we train students and the young researchers on responsible AI use, what it means to use AI responsibly, how to deploy these systems in public, and most importantly, when we are using them, how can we be transparent in disclosing the exact use of these AI systems. Okay, with this, I think I'm done and I'm ready to answer questions, maybe at the end, I guess, but I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Natarajan. Yes, we will go ahead and save questions for the end, audience. And prior to asking our library colleagues to queue up their slides, I do want to go ahead and share our social media side. So Office of Research and Innovation is on social media. You can scan any or each of the 3 QR codes here to follow us and stay abreast of Office of Research and Innovation news. Right. Please allow me to introduce our next presenters. We have Sarah Dornbach, MLS PhD. She is a senior instruction librarian in the Eugene McDermott Library at UT Dallas. She teaches information literacy in a variety of modalities and has presented on the topic of online learning for undergraduate students. Dr. Dornbach's colleague, Sabrina Gillow, is a librarian in the Information Literacy and Instruction Department at the Eugene McDermott Library at UT Dallas. Her role is designed to support students, staff, and faculty with research, as well as provide instruction in both one-on-one research consultations and class sessions on research strategies. So, Dr. Dornbach, Sabrina, the virtual mic is yours, and when when you're ready, please cue up your slides.
Thank you, Tiffany. Let me just get the slideshow going here. Sabrina, does that look right?
That looks good to me.
Fantastic.
All right, well, I'm going to start us out today. Thank you for the introduction, Tiffany. As mentioned, I'm Sabrina, and you'll hear from Sarah in just a minute. Next slide, please, Sarah. Okay. Today we will define types of artificial research tools, identify library research tools, and provide a demonstration of Primo Research Assistant. We will provide a framework that you can use to evaluate the scope, credibility, and value of an AI research tool. And we will cap this presentation off with some information about the role of copyright when using AI research tools. Next slide. Perfect. An AI research tool is a program utilizing LLM technology that is designed for the purpose of enhancing the researcher writing process. Dr. Natarajan has already introduced some ways that artificial intelligence can be used for streamlining writing needs. However, research tools can also be used to support information discovery and aid in source navigation. Although one must use caution and thoughtfulness when employing these tools, trusted tools may assist with finding and/or identifying information sources from a list of results related to your particular topic. They can also help you streamline determining relevance from a source of resources by providing key points or abbreviated summaries of a study's conclusions. More advanced AI research tools are being developed every day that may further streamline the research and writing process. Next slide, please. Perfect. There are literally millions of these tools out there, and given the incredible number of them available, it is important that you as the researcher have a minimum basic understanding of how these tools work, how they're trained, and where they get their information from. Although we in the library can tell you about the tools we know, you may find a tool that is more appropriate for your field and topic than we can recommend to you. So it's best to empower yourself with knowledge to determine effective use for these systems yourself. That being said, we invite discussions about AI tools in the library that you found useful in your research. So if you've discovered a new tool, please feel free to share it with us. We'd love to learn more and broaden our own understanding of what is available to be able to pass along that information to other researchers who could benefit from it. As for the types of AI research tools, broadly we can categorize AI into two systems based on the answer to the question, where is the information coming from? We have open and closed systems. Open or broad systems pull information from public web sources, which means that they're going to get the information to and answer your query from a variety of places. These tools cannot always pull from proprietary information, which means information that is locked behind paywalls, such as subscription journal content or institutional repositories. This means that their answers will be based on abstracts, which could provide incomplete information, or from open source resources only, which could lead you to miss out on critical literature. Closed or curated systems pull directly from an assigned dataset. It's worth noting that some of these closed systems use the architecture of other AI models that were trained on larger or publicly available datasets. This means that biases present in the original datasets will still be inherited by the closed system, which can affect how answers are framed. The information in the summaries generated by closed systems are drawing from the metadata, abstracts, and/or full text of assigned resources. So the results you get will be restricted to the documents within that system's corpus. This means that if you're using proprietary tools, your tool will be able to provide information from paywalled sources. Next slide.
Thank you, Sabrina. We do have several AI research tools currently available through the library. So these are all examples of closed system or curated tools. We have the Primo Research Assistant, which I'll be demonstrating in a moment. Our JSTOR database also contains the JSTOR research tool, and we have ProQuest Insights. So JSTOR research tool is available only through the JSTOR database. You would access that particular research tool by going into the JSTOR database through the library homepage and creating a JSTOR account with your UT Dallas email. Again, this is specific to JSTOR only. It can help with source retrieval, key points, and provide limited analysis for resources. ProQuest Insights, you might encounter the Insights insignia in various places throughout the library website. It's really just fully integrated into the Dissertations and Theses Global database currently. You would access Dissertations and Theses Global, again, by going to the library homepage And if you're off campus, you would need to access using your UT Dallas single sign-on. ProQuest Insights can also provide help with source retrieval and give you a summary of key points and limited analysis. All right. We are going to demonstrate Primo Research Assistant specifically because it's more broadly applicable across many different academic disciplines. I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint, and you should be seeing now the library homepage. So the way that I'm going to access Primo Research Assistant is by starting at the library homepage, which is library.utdallas.edu. You do need to be logged into your library account in order to use this tool. So you can use the account login button on the top right corner and then select Research Assistant again at the top. An alternative route to access would be to start at the library homepage, click on the library catalog tile, and then again, select Research Assistant. If you're not logged in yet, and I am, you would then get a prompt to log into your library account. You can tell that you're logged into your library account, one, because Primo Research Assistant has come up, and two, your name will appear in the top right corner. So this is the Primo Research Assistant interface. In other library resources, the best way to express your information need and to search for sources would be to use a combination of keywords and Boolean operators. Here in the Primo Research Assistant, just like other generative AI models, natural language searching is supported. In fact, it works a little bit better. So you can express your information need in terms of a full research question or a whole sentence or a phrase. And you can put in just keywords. You'll notice here on the left under my own search history, I did a search for liver transplant surgery. So you can do that, but it tends to work a little bit better if you are a little bit more specific about your information need. And that's actually true for keyword searching as well. So a search such as what do the most recent clinical trials conclude about liver transplant surgery is going to be a more targeted prompt and likely give you more relevant sources to your information need. When you include a phrase like most recent in your query, the Primo Research Assistant will default to resources from the last 5 years. You also have the option of selecting a certain date range, even more recent, like the last 12 months, or entering a custom date range. And you have the option in Primo Research Assistant of specifying a little bit more about the types of resources that you want. All journal articles, specifically peer-reviewed articles, books, a combination of all of these. So Primo Research Assistant, unlike a broad search everything library search, will not return media items, audiovisual items, or news media items like newspaper articles. So when we enter a particular search, you can see a couple that I've done here again in the past, like what are the most effective study habits for graduate students? When I enter that search, the Primo Research Assistant will give me what it calls the top 5 most relevant sources. I can click on a source, read that source's abstract. I can go to the next source and the next and read all of the abstracts. If it's available full text in our library collection, I might have a full text online or a PDF where I can download the full text of that article. If I don't see that, I can click on more details and request options. If we have that article somewhere full text in our library collection, I am now taken to the library catalog record for that particular article. If we did not have that article in our full text collection, then I would have a prompt to submit an interlibrary loan request here. Okay. Unlike other AI research tools, there's no back and forth. So I can ask a completely new research question here if I want to. I cannot further refine this specific research question. So I can't say what are other articles, or can you limit just to the last year, or things like that. But I can click try again and ask the same question again, and it will give me, generate once more 5 different articles. All right, so that has been an incredibly brief introduction to the Primo Research Assistant. Let me pull the PowerPoint back up. Once again, you're going to log into your library account to access Primo Research Assistant.
All right, thank you for that demonstration, Sarah. Now that you've seen an example of a research tool in action, let's look at a framework that you can use to evaluate any tool you might consider using at any point in your research process. We call this framework the CAPE framework, and each letter stands for something, so it is an acronym. Let's take a look at each letter in more detail. We have a set of questions for each letter that you can use as an evaluative checklist. All right, so our letter C in CAPE stands for currency. The questions we want to ask ourselves when evaluating a tool before using it is if we can find this information on how comprehensive the data training set is. So can we identify if it's being continually trained or if it's stagnated on an older data set? And does this matter for the type of research that you're doing? How often is the tool updated? Is the tool that you're looking at being maintained? And if so, in what way? If your tool is relying on the architecture of a larger model like GPT, is it in date with the current model or is it relying on an older version? And how could this affect your research? We want to ask ourselves, what data is the tool accessing? So is this an open or closed system? How reputable are the data sources that it's pulling from? If the sources are from Reddit and other popular sites, this may not be reputable for your work. However, if the data sources are scholarly articles in a library database, there's a higher chance that the sources are credible, so the outputs may be more reputable. However, you still have to verify them for accuracy. In short, for this letter, it's just like evaluating any other tool or source. Can you easily check whether the tool itself is up to date, or is there another tool that is being more consistently maintained, more recently created, or trained on more recent data that would be better for your needs? Our next letter is A. It stands for accuracy. Our questions to ask ourselves are, does the information appear to be accurate, timely, and credible? Are there hallucinated citations, and if so, how many? Something to remember is that even one hallucinated citation in your own work is considered academic dishonesty and possibly research misconduct. You have to decide if the risk of hallucinated citation is worth the support of the tool. And the last question you might ask yourself for accuracy is, can you ascertain the provenance of the information, or where is it coming from? This is a fairly straightforward letter in the framework. Is the information accurate? If you notice that the tool is frequently getting information wrong or hallucinating, then the tool may not be credible. While you always have to verify AI-generated output no matter what tool you use, the worse the tool is, the more time you'll have to spend correcting it. It is important to approach these tools with a healthy skepticism, and if they continue to give bad information, then you should discontinue using them since your time is valuable. It's also important to remember that you as the researcher have a responsibility to provide credible work that can be compromised by the continued use of poor tools. So if you do have that continued bad information, it might be time to look for a different tool. Our next letter is P, privacy. What information are you required to provide to use this tool? Do you have to make an account, sign in, pay for a subscription, upload data or information into the system? So in other words, what are you giving away to be able to access this resource? You can also ask yourself, does this research tool have a privacy policy, and can you find it? And if so, how easily? How detailed or transparent is this policy? If the policy isn't transparent or easily found, this could be a red flag that the tool itself is using your data in a way that you don't want it to be used. You can also ask yourself, how does this tool use your information? Is it going to train on your interactions? And if not, how or why are the interactions stored and for how long? Utilizing AI tools increases the size of our digital footprint. What you put out into the digital world isn't impermanent. If you choose to use a tool, you should determine how it will use your information and interactions, especially if you choose to engage with an open source tool. If you can't identify how the tool will use the information you share with it, it may be best to forego the use of it so you don't compromise sensitive data. Our last letter is ethical and responsible use. Our questions for this letter include: how is the tool funded? What kind of bias could be replicated by the tool? How accessible is the tool? How does the tool comply with copyright laws? And who benefits from your use of this tool, or who could be negatively affected? How could the use of this tool go beyond yourself to impact others? There are many ethical considerations for responsible use of AI. It is a powerful resource that can facilitate your research, but as said in the Spider-Man movies, with great power comes great responsibility. There are, of course, environmental concerns when using these tools that you need to be aware of, but there are also considerations for how your use of this tool affects others. Being conscientious of the bias that can be replicated in a tool means that you, as the human in the loop, can identify and mitigate harm that can come from its output. For example, say that a tool is trained largely on one health profile and you ask it to generate output analyzing conditions from a diverse set of patients. The tool may carry bias based on the training data and fail to account for important differences in the other patients that you, as the human in the loop, can catch by understanding the diversity in your data. Consider who will be impacted by your use of these tools and how you can actively engage critically for positive benefits rather than engaging passively in consumption that can pass along harm.
Thank you, Sabrina. So let's briefly apply the CAPE framework to the Primo Research Assistant. So some things we might note on currency is that the LLM that Primo Research Assistant uses is the GPT 4.1 mini technology. So again, this is an LLM that was trained on a very large data set using open web resources, but we're deploying it in a closed, curated system that consists of library resources. The data set, or the collection of resources that Primo Research Assistant is pulling from, is actually updated daily with full text access links updated weekly. The library is always a good place to get enhanced access to subscription-only content, and that is one of the benefits of using the Primo Research Assistant as well, is that you do have access to some subscription-only resources that on the open web you might run into that you might not have full text access to. Again, also note that newspapers are not included in the Primo Research Assistant returns. On the topic of accuracy, Primo Research Assistant comes with a fairly standard AI disclaimer that quality may vary and you need to check for accuracy. As Dr. Natarajan mentioned, the buck stops with the researcher. So you always have to verify quality and accuracy yourself. In this particular, when using the Primo Research Assistant, I have yet to encounter an actual hallucinated source. I'm not going to tell you it's impossible, but it is a lot less likely. Now, what is possible is encountering those papers that were mentioned earlier in this presentation that have passed peer review despite containing fabricated content themselves. This is unfortunately a reality of the scientific publishing atmosphere that we are currently in. All libraries are impacted by this. So it is possible that some of the sources that you encounter using Primo Research Assistant will be those papers that really shouldn't have ever gotten through the system, but still have. So it's always been best practice for researchers to access and read in full anything that they are citing, and that continues to be true today. If you identify something that seems suspicious or that you can identify as containing fabricated or hallucinated content or hallucinated citations, that is something you can bring up with the library. We have raised these concerns with publishers in the past. Here in the library, we are very intentional about what we add or do not add to our collection, and we have removed resources from our collection that have been demonstrated to contain fabricated content. It's also worth noting that the Primo Research Assistant excludes any articles that have been officially retracted. They will not be part of your returns. Ultimately, researchers will want to ask themselves, um, are these results that I've been given truly relevant to my query? Do they help me to answer my information needs? For privacy concerns, you do not need to create an additional account. You just sign in with your library account. The Primo Research Assistant privacy policy is easy to locate and access. For this policy, the searches that you enter are not used to further train any models. Nobody else has access to your inquiries. And while I was demonstrating, you may have noticed on my search history that I actually did have the option of deleting my own prior searches. In my case, I've elected to save them. It is also worth noting here that as this is your library account, once you are no longer a student at UTD or not currently enrolled or not currently employed by UTD, you would lose access to your library account, and that does include the Primo Research Assistant as well. As far as ethical concerns, it's already been discussed that there's potential bias present in the training data that can continue through the process. Any generative AI comes with certain environmental concerns. There's currently no cost to you or to us as the library for having access to Primo Research Assistant, but that could always change. The Primo Research Assistant is compliant with current web accessibility guidelines. Ultimately, it is every researcher's responsibility to apply the information that you gather through the Primo Research Assistant or any AI research tool in an ethical manner. And that does include honoring the copyright protections of other people's work. It's certainly worth noting that although it is not possible to upload content to the Primo Research Assistant, it is possible to upload content to other research tools. Most publishers prohibit the use of AI tools in conjunction with their own copyrighted material. This is a statement that is found in several different major publishers' guidelines. Content may not be used with any artificial intelligence tools or machine learning technologies. And then, of course, you want to protect your own copyright and your own work and your own intellectual property as well. And be very careful with uploading that or introducing it to an open AI system, as that would now be part of a publicly available data set. Once content is included in an AI data set, it is more difficult to remove that or to opt out of your work being used to train further AI systems.
So, should you use AI tools? We are not here to tell you whether to use them or not. We're here to empower you with strategies to make informed choices about the tools available to you. By understanding their capabilities, limitations, and best applications, you can determine if something may be useful to you. It is important to ask yourself whether the tool will actually be useful or if you just want to use it because it is there. Consider what your actual need is and find a tool that is most appropriate for that specific need. And also think about whether your information need can be addressed without AI. For example, if you need background information, you can try foundational readings from popular sources for current events such as news, media, and magazine articles, or from reference sources for historical and disciplinary information like books, dictionaries, and encyclopedias. For scholarly research, library databases contain peer-reviewed articles that can meet your needs. These are available to you and can be searched without the use of AI if you feel confident in your ability to build a search strategy. Of course, some of these databases have research assistants that are Gen AI tools that can support your searching within those systems to facilitate the discovery process. AI tools can be used for interactive support, such as help with the writing process, as mentioned, And library research tools can give you key points and broad overviews to help you sort through sources and find relevant information. Conversational tools like ChatGPT and Claude can help with recording your research through drafting assistance and outlining. So how can the library help you? We're here to support you. We can aid in any part of the research process, including keyword searching, database navigation, finding sources, and more. We can assist with identifying and using AI research tools or applying the CAPE framework to evaluate tools for your goals. If you need help with any of the above, you can schedule a meeting with a librarian for one-on-one support. Okay, and we've included a few extra slides on reporting your research and some resources for your references. You can find these at the end of the presentation, but we don't have time today to go over them directly. Thank you for listening, and please feel free to contact us with any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much. And at this time, we will go ahead and open up the floor for questions and answers. You have two options. You can post a question in the Q&A chat, or you can raise your hand to speak. My colleague Taylor Yarborough will go ahead and manage the Q&A chat and the raise your hand to speak option. So we'll take a beat and we'll kind of wait for you all to pipe in. All right, Dr. Zhang.
Okay, yeah, thank you for a wonderful talk and the introduction to this. I wonder whether this recorded webinar can be shared.
Yes, it is recorded. Excuse me. It is recorded, and we will go ahead and make sure to post it on the Office of Research and Innovation's YouTube channel. Everyone that attended today will get an email with a link after the closing of the session.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any additional questions, Dr. Zhang?
Could you please just post a link to the chat? Then we can just assess that immediately.
We will do our best. We want to make sure that there isn't any editing that needs to take place first. So please stand by.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Liu?
Oh, hi. Thank you guys for the nice talk. So I was wondering, so recently I use AI to help me with the writing a lot. And because for the writing process, I have to input whatever I write first and then ask it to help me improve, like the grammar, the flow, the graph organization. And then in this regard, the generated content, does it consider as AI generated content, or it belongs to me? So if I use this in my grant proposal writing, does it consider as a majority of AI? At least it's AI processed, but the majority content is still from me, but it's still being processed. So I don't know what is the balance for it being considered as a majority of AI writing proposal. Do you guys my question? Yeah.
Yeah, can I try and answer that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think that's a very important question. I think it's probably the most central question on how can you ascertain, who do you attribute the writing to? The fact that it is your paragraph that was or your section that was fixed by AI, I think it's still yours. There are some telltales for AI writing, right? So as an archive moderator, when I look at these papers, it's very clear what is being written by AI and what's not. Too much use of adjectives, too many bulleted points, right? Everything is organized in bulleted points. And the logical flow is like perfectly logical, as if it's written by like a rule book written by a machine rather than a human trying to explain their points. So the point is that as long as it is your text and you have read and verified what has been interpreted, what has been modified, what has been edited out, I think it's still yours.
Okay.
As long as the equations and everything is yours, then I think in the proposal, then I would say it's still yours. So you can use it for minor edits, but what you should not be using is just give it a prompt and let it write the entire section.
Gotcha. But then I worry that, let's say, I don't know what kind of tool they will check. They will put your proposal and then check if this is written by AI or not. But because my content has been processed by AI, so I don't know if they will say, yeah, go ahead.
No, so as long as you disclose it, right? The way I'm not going to say which funding agency, but in a recent panel that I was in, there was an explicit last paragraph which says AI use, and they have written that we have used AI to edit, fix the grammar, and in table 2 was created using AI, and table 6 was created using AI. As long as you attribute it correctly, saying that this is what I used it for, I don't think that should be a problem.
Gotcha. Thank you.
We have 5 minutes left for this session. Any other questions? Please raise your hand to speak or drop your question in the Q&A chat. And we'll stick around for a few more minutes. If there are questions, we're happy to answer them. In the meantime, we would most appreciate it if you scan this QR code to fill out a survey. We'd love to know what you thought about this session and how we can improve anything. Without any further questions, I want to take a moment to thank you, Dr. Natarajan, Dr. Dornbeck, and Sabrina for sharing your time and your knowledge with the attendees. Audience, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking time to complete that brief survey.